Shalom Aleichem, my dear friends. Tonight is a great night. It's the night of the Hilula of Lag BaOmer, the Hilula of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. And to have some kind of merit that will emanate from our knowledge of this giant that we have in the history of the Jewish people, by the name of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, I would like to say a few words. This way, when we celebrate tonight, we shall know what is it that we are doing. Usually, every year, tonight is a great night in the mountain of Meron, near Tzfat, in the land of Israel. And everywhere in the world, they light fire and dance and sing. This year, unfortunately, because of the calamity of Corona, we are not allowed to go to the mountain of Meron. Usually, approximately 500,000 people, they climb that mountain to go and attend the great joy of being near the grave of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and his son Rabbi Elazar. This year we cannot. So everyone in his home should light a candle, number one, for Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, and then you light a candle for his son Rabbi Elazar, and you light a candle for Rabbi Meir Ba'al HaNes, that we discussed his history a few days ago, and other tzaddikim. There are some people who light over 100 candles tonight. Oh, that's nice to see. But one thing is not to be forgotten, to light a candle and to say this is in memory and in honor of the great Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Every Friday night, good Jews, before they recite the Kiddush, they say the song, they sing the song, Bar Yochai, Nimshachta Ashrecha, that's a good song which represents the secrets of Kabbalah as the world has learned throughout the generations from the teachings of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. That song was written by Rabbi Shimon Lavi. Anyway, who is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai? Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was one of the greatest sages of the Mishnah. He lived after the destruction of the second temple, approximately maybe 100 years, maybe less. It was the fourth generation of the sages of the Mishnah, whom we call by the name Tannaim, sages of the Mishnah. There are several opinions as when was Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai born. Some say he was born tomorrow, Lag BaOmer, the 33 days in the counting of the Omer. What is sure is definitely, according to the Zohar, the holy Zohar that was written by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, he passed away tomorrow, on the 33rd day of the Omer. What about when was he born? So, if it's not on the day of Lag BaOmer, then according to some opinions, he was born on the day of Shavuot itself. Now, this requires a little bit of a certain kind of explanation. The Kabbalah says that Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was the reincarnation of Moshe Rabbeinu, of our master Moses. Moses gave us the Torah at the mountain of Sinai. What kind of Torah did he give us? He gave us the written Torah, and he gave us, according to the teachings of our sages, he gave us also the oral Torah, which is the Mishnah, the Talmud, and everything, and all the laws. But approximately, maybe 1500 years after Moses, was the time of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai gave us that Torah which they study in heaven, the hidden Torah. He wrote the book of the Zohar, which consists of many volumes, as well as many teachings of Kabbalah, which were not meant for everyone, but in the beginning, in the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it was meant for his students, for his disciples. Among them, his own son, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Abba, who was the one who was writing everything that Rabbi Shimon was saying, and other great people. In fact, the tradition says that there were, those who studied under Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai consisted of two different groups. The first group had about 21 disciples. Those people were great enough that the Zohar says that whenever they sat down to study, there was great fire surrounding them. No one else from the outside was able to enter that circle. But there was a second, higher kind of group consisting of 7 disciples of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai who were on such a great level that even those among the 21 could not enter the circle of the 7. That's what it says in Mishnat Zohar. Rabbi Shimon himself was the disciple of Rabbi Akiva, the famed giant of his generation. Not the time now to talk about Rabbi Akiva, but many know the story of Rabbi Akiva. So, his great disciple was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai himself. In the book Nachalat Avot, third book, this book was written by Rabbi Yosef Messas, 6 volumes, written by Rabbi Yosef Messas, who used to be a great rabbi, one of the 3 judges in the city of Meknes, Morocco, but when he came to the land of Israel, he became the chief rabbi of Haifa. I knew him personally. He looked like an angel of God, perhaps like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He writes the history of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. First he begins with his father, Yochai. Who was his father? According to the tradition, his father came from the tribe of Yehuda, Judah. Migdolei Ador, Yochai himself was one of the greatest men of his generation. He was a rich man, he was a very honored person, and he was close to the royalty. The wife of Yochai, of course, the mother of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, her name was Sarah. She was the mother of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. She came from a long line of princes, as beginning from Hillel Hazaken, the old Hillel, the first Hillel, and she came from his line. Now, unfortunately, Sarah, the wife of Yochai, did not bear any children. She was barren for such a long time that her husband, even though he loved her, but bound by the law that says that after 10 years, if there are no children, then there must be a certain kind of separation, Girushin. So Yochai thought about it. Somehow, his wife understood that he wants a divorce, but he did not propose yet. But she became extremely sad about it, and she spent her days and nights crying to God with tears, supplications, prayers, and also fasting and distributing charities, and asking the Almighty, please God, do not allow this divorce, so therefore give me a child. So her prayers were accepted. Baruch Hashem. How? Here is what happened. In this book, Nachalat Avot, it says that Yochai had a dream the night of Rosh Hashanah. He was dreaming that he was standing in a forest full of trees. Many trees, some of them fresh, some of them dry. And he was leaning on one of those trees that was dry. And then there was a person who came in his dream, dressed with white, and he brought with him water, with which he was also trying to serve those trees that were dry. When he came to the tree upon which Yochai was leaning, very dry tree, he brought a little plate from which he had some water, and from that water he poured upon that little tree. And in that dream, suddenly that tree which was very dry became extremely fresh, and he grew up in the same dream having fruits, beautiful apples, and all around it everything was fresh and green. And then the smell, the perfume that emanated from that tree was all over the forest, something special. Yochai woke up with a happy heart, knowing that this dream meant something quite concrete and happy. He came to his wife and he said to her, Sarah, here is my dream, the night of Rosh Hashanah. And I think that it means that, that the forest of trees, this is the world. That's the interpretation, the world. The trees that bear fruits represent, of course, symbolize women. Women give fruits. And the trees that were dry represent the women that cannot bring any child. So what does it mean? So he told her about the little plate, and then how his dry, the tree upon which he was leaning, that was very dry, became a beautiful tree. What does it mean? Does that mean, perhaps, he says to his wife, that God wants to give them a boy, a child? His wife Sarah, said to him, my beautiful husband, let me go to your teacher, the holy Rabbi Akiva. I will tell him this dream, and he will probably give me the proper interpretation. Immediately after Rosh Hashanah, husband and wife, Yochai and his wife, went to Rabbi Akiva, and they told him the dream. After he heard the dream, he said to Sarah, he said, Madam, I want you to know that everything that your husband said is true, that God meant to give you a beautiful boy. It was by nature that you could not bring a child, that you are barren by nature. But because of your supplications and your prayers and your tears, God reversed your nature from being unable to being able to have a child. Let me tell you that God is going to give you a boy by which you will see that the world will become enlightened because of him. They left Rabbi Akiva with a heart uplifted and happy. He even promised them that this year, they shall have the child. Indeed, after 9 months she became pregnant, and after 9 months she gave birth to a beautiful boy on the day of Shavuot. That's the holiday of Shavuot. And immediately, as soon as the baby came out, the house filled up with light and with tremendous glory. And everyone that saw that, he saw that there is a great blessing that emanated from this child, who is bound in the future to bring a great light upon the people of Israel. The child was named Shimon, because Shimon comes from the verb lishmoa, listen, because God listened to the prayers of Sarah. So he was given the name Shimon. Shimon grew up when he was of the age of 5 years old. They brought him to the yeshiva of Rabban Gamliel in Yerushalayim. That's where he started to study Torah. His genius became evident already among everyone, because even his teachers were amazed to hear the beautiful and very smart things that came out from the mouth of this child. His great teachers were Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania, very great sage, Rabbi Tarfon, and of course Rabbi Akiva, as we said before. The man grew up and he became a great Talmid Chacham, who had his own opinions. And now let me bring you the continuation of this story from the Talmud in Masechet Shabbat on page 33, Lamed Gimal, exactly like Lag Ba'omer, Lamed 33 days of the Omer. This way you can remember the page. And that's where it says, and Rabbi Shimon was already a known sage, one of the greatest sages of the generation. One day, him and his colleagues, who were Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Ilai, and Rabbi Yossi, those 3 rabbis gathered in a place and they sat down to discuss what's going on in the world and to discuss also the deeds of the Roman authority and their deeds. What do they mean? Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Ilai, to distinguish him from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, of course. That's Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Ilai. He became a very important man because he is known as Rosh HaMdabrim Bechol Makom, the first one to speak in every occasion, and we'll tell you why. Rabbi Yehuda was the first one who started to speak, and he spoke very greatly about the deeds of Rome, saying that all they do, they build bridges and streets, and they make Jerusalem beautiful. And he said many, many good praises about them. Rabbi Yossi, he heard everything, but he didn't say his opinion. Nothing bad, nothing good. Rabbi Shimon was a fiery nature. He said, no. Everything that Rome does is for its own benefit, and especially that it brings with it her civilization that is so terrible for the sanctity of the Jewish people, having to do with all kinds of contaminations. And the words of those 3 rabbis were heard by the one who was serving them, known as Yehuda ben Gerim, somebody by the name Yehuda, the son of converts. This man heard the whole conversation. Little by little, it happened that he repeated this conversation with some other people. Little by little, the conversation came out to the ears of the royal house, Caesar himself. And that's when a decree came out from Rome. Rabbi Yehuda, who spoke eloquently and praisefully for the deeds of Rome, will be aggrandized. And from now on, in every Jewish occasion, when the rabbis speak, the first one to speak is Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Ilai, a very great sage. Rabbi Yossi, who didn't say anything, shall be exiled. Where he went, he was taken from Yerushalayim, he was taken to a little village in the north of Israel called Tzipori, which became also some kind of center for the Jewish Torah. And Rabbi Shimon, who spoke bad and negatively about Rome, is sentenced to death. The decree, of course, was heard by everyone, and Rabbi Shimon immediately went with and his son, and they went, and first they hid in their house, but they could not endanger his wife, so therefore they went later on and hid in a cave in which they spent 12 years inside that cave, but 12 years of learning. That is unbelievable, because God helped them. They survived by drinking some water that there was there, and also from a carob tree. That's how they ate and drank. Whenever they had to pray, whenever they learned Torah, they would remove their garments, because they don't want to use them all the time, and they would hide. They would cover themselves with the earth and learn all day. When the time of the prayer comes, they would get up and wear their garments, and this way they would pray as it should be and properly. 12 years. That's where all the secrets of the Zohar HaKadosh were given to Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, and all the teachings of Kabbalah came out from that cave. But they themselves, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar, became like angels. When finally a heavenly voice came out from the outside and saying the decree of Caesar has died, and therefore his decrees were totally eliminated, Rabbi Shimon was able to come out with his son. But they came out as angels. They looked upon Jews and they saw that they were working hard, the land. And they said, if they work so hard all day, when are they going to learn Torah? Their eyes became like rays that caused a death of some of the people that they looked upon. Until a heavenly voice came out and said, Shimon, Reb Shimon, go back to your cave. I don't want you to kill my creatures. They went back to the cave for another 12 months, in accordance with a certain belief that 12 months is a kind of punishment. Then they came out. Rabbi Shimon already learned how to live with human beings. Rabbi Elazar, who was younger, took some more time for him, but Rabbi Shimon convinced him properly. If you want to know the whole story, you have to look into the Talmud in Masechet Shabbat on page 33. And finally, Rabbi Shimon came out, and the world saw who is Rabbi Shimon. That's why he became distinguished from all the sages, because as Moses himself gave us the Torah, the oral Torah and the written Torah, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai gave us the hidden Torah, the Torah that only angels were able to study, that even Moses learned, but he could not give it to everyone. Rabbi Shimon had it all. He gave it to his disciples. Throughout the generations, there were very few rabbis. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, maybe later on Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman was also a great Kabbalist, up to the time of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, the teacher of the Ari HaKadosh, about 500 years ago. And then the Ari HaKadosh himself, the Holy Ari, who started to spread the study of Kabbalah among his students, especially among his primary student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, through whom he gave all the knowledge of the hidden knowledge that he calls Eitz Chaim. And today, as it says in the prophecy says, that only before the coming of the Mashiach, the world will be desirous to learn the Kabbalah. That's what we see today. We see that there are many schools of Kabbalah and many milieus of Kabbalah that never existed before in any generation, which probably is a sign that the redemption is coming. But what we learn today, it's very important that one should study the Zohar, even if you can understand how great you are. But even if you don't understand, just by reading the text of the Zohar gives you a tremendous credit. And it says in the Zohar that only through the study of the Zohar shall the redemption happen. So there is much more to say about Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, such as the day of the Hilulah. What is the day of the Hilulah? That's the day when he died. So that day should be a sad day. Rather, Rabbi Shimon, on the day of his death, he wanted his disciples and everyone to rejoice in that day, because that was the day in which permission was given to him to release his knowledge of the secrets of the universe and the Torah. And that's why this day became a day of rejoicing among the Jewish people. The fire that we light everywhere represents the fire that surrounded the house of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It says at the end of the Zohar in Parashat Azinu that the day when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passed away, on his deathbed, a few of his disciples were able to be near him when the fire of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, was surrounding them, and no one was able to enter the house because it was too much. The light was so great, and then everyone saw how his deathbed was practically flying around, and that was a day that we celebrate these days also as we begin tonight with Lag BaOmer. So this is as much as we can say now, but there is much more. Remember, studying the Torah has become the obligation of the day. Everyone who can just read the Zohar, it's also a tremendous credit to himself and to the world. God bless you, my friends, and be well.